Analysis: Biden's rebuke reveals the Western world's changing view of Israel. As the U.S. president's remarks illustrate, Netanyahu is becoming persona non grata among the two powers most important to him, Washington and the UAE. Recent scandals have seriously damaged his international standing. If any further proof was needed of the unprecedented low to which the Netanyahu government has brought Israel due to the governmental coup, it came Tuesday night in the form of Joe Biden's statement. The American president took a step reminiscent of a last desperate attempt by a friend or family member to rescue someone in the throes of a crisis or an addiction. In very non-diplomatic language, Joe Biden told the Israelis the truth to their face. In his words, he said he was very concerned over the direction Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was taking Israel and that he hoped Netanyahu would abandon it. An invitation to the White House? Not in the near term. This is the second consecutive humiliation for the Prime Minister suffered in the international arena since forming his coalition 3 months ago. Netanyahu wanted to be officially welcomed in the two countries he regards as critically important, the United States and the United Arab Emirates, and had certainly maintained a fantasy about rapid normalization with Saudi Arabia and a first official visit to the kingdom. But exactly the opposite has happened. In Washington, as in Abu Dhabi, his hopes for a visit have been ignored and the relationship is on the rocks. UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed twisted the knife this week when he allowed the local media to publish a story with pictures of a private meeting he had at the palace with former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. Even though Washington has yet to take any concrete steps against Israel, the directness and strength of the criticism recalls the loan guarantees crisis in 1991 during President George H.W. Bush's term, which helped bring down Yitzhak Shamir in the election the following year. Netanyahu's position in the polls is only a reminder of what it was like in the final days of the government of the man who first gave him a taste of politics by appointing him deputy foreign minister, and who later called him an angel of destruction. Aside from the shock of Biden's remarks, that can only be compared to the storm that followed Yoav Gallant's dismissal, two things stand out. The first is that this stance was taken by Biden, a longtime Israel supporter who had entered office with the idea of maintaining close and fruitful relations with Jerusalem. The second is that a skilled and experienced statesman like Netanyahu has managed to get himself into such a tangled mess within a few months. As a result of the current, strategic situation and Netanyahu's long-term focus on the Iranian threat, Netanyahu could have been expected to devote all his time to stopping Tehran's nuclear ambitions from the start. Instead, he galloped ahead with the judicial overhaul, paused this week in the face of a wall of opposition but plans to resume the minute he can. Even with Biden's remarks fresh in mind on Tuesday, the Prime Minister's circle moved forward quickly with the Gifts Law, a bill designed to allow Netanyahu to keep and receive donations to finance his legal expenses as he fights corruption charges. Biden, it seems, read the latest article by his favorite columnist, the New York Times' Thomas Friedman, which called Netanyahu Israel's first irrational leader, warned that his actions endangered American interests and urged the president to establish a back channel with the Israel Defense Forces to ensure things don't get out of hand. Someone must have alerted the president that Netanyahu's son, Yair, has been spreading toxic conspiracy theories about the U.S. government funding his father's protests. Netanyahu issued only a brief response to Biden's remarks, saying that Israel is a sovereign state that acts according to the will of the people. He doesn't want, or can't, silence the coalition lawmakers and ministers that lashed out at Biden and demonstrated a complete lack of understanding as to the nature of the ties and power relations between the two countries. Nevertheless, Netanyahu may be forced to remove the Gallant crisis from the agenda due to the growing crisis with the United States. The defense minister has yet to receive an official letter of dismissal, even though 3 days have passed since Netanyahu made it public. Gallant continues his work as if nothing happened and Netanyahu is simply ignoring the matter. It's clear that the series of scandals further weakens Netanyahu's power and status, while reducing his room for political maneuver. Biden put a mirror in front of the faces of the Israelis and made clear how the Western world currently sees us. It is the protest movement's dedication and temporary success this week in stopping the legislative process that provide a trace of comfort. These are the kind of developments that enhance Israel's profile in the US and Europe, despite the government's behavior. Lurking in the shadows, however, is the threat of worsening violence. It is no coincidence that gangs of soccer thugs and hilltop youth attacked the anti-government demonstrators in the streets this week. It appears someone let this tiger loose in the hope that it would divert the protest from its course and bring calls for political dialogue, for which Netanyahu is still preparing options for alternative action. That's today's latest news. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment so that this channel can continue to exist. Thank you for listening to the end, and I hope it's useful.